This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish. Hello. I'm Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, runs the School of Communication and Media, Montclair State University. Thanks for hanging out with us, whether you're joining us on For the Fans, ftfnext.com, YouTube, or wherever it is you prefer to listen to your podcast. Keith, we have a problem. And that problem is I have recently moved. And what I left behind, Keith, was a perfect studio setup for the video version of this show that no one is watching. What I have stepped into is an extremely imperfect setup. In fact, listen, people, if you're watching this, first of all, why? Second of all, thanks. You're going to notice at some point during the show, half of my lighting is going to go off. I ask you to ignore that. That's what I ask of the people. We're having trouble. So just right off the top, please bear with us.
So this has been the most professional start to any production I've ever been a part of. I'd like to take the viewers, because by the way, the version you're seeing right now could be 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll never see the outtakes. The first version, your lights turned off. The second version, I believe you, after about 3 seconds, you go, I can't hear you. I can't. The third version, you stumbled over words like you were a drunken sailor. You go, welcome to Fort Van. And then we say, well, that's not going to work because we're not in Louisiana, so they can't understand us. So I don't know if you're just trying to make this more and more difficult. You're trying to implode the show from within. It's a terribly unprofessional broadcast thus far. But yes, you do seem to have a challenging studio environment. Now, as you know, as you've seen in my house, as you know, in right before NYCFC Day Out, I've got a great studio setup. I have room for 2 studios down here. I could do a network situation where I have the digital over there and then the network feed. Like, I have a great studio situation, as well as, of course, the pool room, right? The boudoir. That's actually not a pool room. That's a bedroom.
It's not a boudoir. No, it's not. It's more of a dungeon.
So it is. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the lights stay on. But I'm hoping. What's the artwork that's behind you? That's new.
No, it's not new. It's been on every version of Sportish since I've been in the new digs. It's an airplane. It's a triptych of a World War II airplane. That seems like a good thing to put on the wall.
I have an inappropriate World War II airplane story I won't tell on the air.
You do? How is that possible? Like, what are the ingredients? What are the ingredients of an inappropriate World War II airplane story?
I'll tell it. Okay. I don't even know.
Right,
I won't
really
name
had to
the
twist
names.
your arm there.
I won't name. really had to drag it out of me. I'm not supposed to tell anyone. All right, I'll do it. So I'd be terrible with like the nuclear code. Like, no, I can't. All right, it's 5744. So here's the story. I won't give any context to where, when, whom. There was like a kids movie night, and someone, a parent, decided to bring like little toy airplanes to kind of give out. I don't even know what the context, but he had collected these airplanes, and it turns out they were World War II replica airplanes. Unfortunately, they were historically correct, which means that about a third of the airplanes might have had a symbol.
Wow. Really?
that some parents found objection.
This is both simultaneously amazing and stunning. Like, think about the layers that had to go through to get approved.
It didn't. They just brought it. And the person I knew who was running this event had to answer lots of questions from parents of 8-year-olds of why these were being given out. And it was not this person's fault. It was a great story. That's my World War II story.
So Keith, since you've already disparaged the fine people of Louisiana, they've got a bit of a rough go of it right now. How about this? Ed Orgeron, head coach at LSU, who so recently won a national championship that we discussed it at length.
I can't get over the siren. Show. I can't get.
Again, when you live in an urban core, sometimes
a crime-infested urban core.
Sometimes people run afoul of the law. Just know if anybody asks, I was with you last night between 7 and 12. So that's very important. Also, people listening, if anyone asks you, I was with you between 7 and 12 last night.
How great would that be if this show were your alibi? I mean, this is the stuff of dreams. This is the stuff of dreams.
Now, our friend Ed Orgeron, can I get a go Tigers, please?
Go Tigers.
That was dreadful. I mean, that was so bad. Can I get a better go Tigers?
What do you want? That's a go Tigers. Like, what do you want?
There's no R. It's go Tigers.
They're great.
You talk about marketing slogans that people just gave up on. They're like, well, what do we think about Frosted? What do we want people to know about Frosted Flakes? They're great.
They are. By the way, time out. Frosted Flakes are delicious.
Frosted
Flakes. They I think in the newfound world of like cereals where they put like 8 different kinds of marshmallows and all that stuff, Frosted Flakes have held the test of time. Not like Corn Flakes, which have not. So once you frost them, it's different.
Do you have a cereal that you have to buy for yourself, but under the guise of you're buying it for your kids?
No, because I have no shame.
Okay. What's the worst cereal that you eat as a grown man that you're like, no grown man should be eating this cereal?
I don't know if I go down because I don't like things that make the milk turn colors. Like that's not my thing. And sometimes these things look better than they like. Have you ever gotten like, what was it? The Cookie Crisp cereal?
Oh yeah, that's not great. That's just stale cookies.
You look at it and you're like, oh, it's like eating cookies. And then you eat it and you're like, it's god awful. At that point, you're better off just taking cookies, which is a fine idea, putting them in a bowl and putting some milk on it and eating it. So I don't know that there's a cereal that because the problem is I can't buy this stuff because my kids are like vultures. So anything that comes into this house, like good thing I don't have a drug habit because if it came into this house, they'd probably eat that too.
Sure. It's a different kind of Frosted Flake. Yeah. You really like that one, huh? All right.
It's not a bad one. That one's not bad because it's so inappropriate.
Sure.
That's why it's
funny. Mine is either Fruity Pebbles or Black Tar Heroin.
A lot of people actually eat that for dinner.
Well, Fruity Pebbles are good at all times of the day.
By the way, Fruity Pebble, we're probably really going off the rails. That could be a name for a drug. No question.
Oh, it definitely could be. And in fact, now that certain drugs are more legal than they used to be, I bet it is. Like, I bet you can walk into your local dispensary and get a Fruity Pebbles. And you know what's right next to it? The Bam Bam.
Well, I bet you Captain Crunch has got to be a name for something too. Is the whole line of like those crappy cereals just drug names?
Everyone Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
It is. But do they change it a little bit? Do they make it like Cinnamon Toasted Crunch?
Count Chocula. Everyone.
All right. So Ed Orgeron, what happened to him?
He's on the hot seat, Keith. He might get fired.
For what?
For not winning enough football games. You're telling me.
He won a Well, if you're going to fire anyone, let's start with Dan Mullen. Dear God.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Your team lost to Kentucky over the weekend. That's embarrassing.
They found a creative way. They looked for, I think they had no less than like 10 shots from inside the 10 to tie or win the game. And they decided if they got within striking distance of the end zone, someone have to be offsides. Someone had to be offsides. That was the rule. So Ed Ogeron, now what record are they now? Tell me how poorly they're performing.
What do you think? I did research. I don't know. They're not doing great. They're not doing great. They don't have a running game. They're not doing great.
No. And they didn't do great last year, obviously, either.
Nope.
And so I look, there's a few things at play here. Obviously, one is that the SEC is brutal. I mean, the SEC is absolutely brutal. Because
even Kentucky's winning games now.
And Kentucky's undefeated. Arkansas was undefeated until they had to play Georgia, and that didn't work out so well. So
Vanderbilt, your time is coming.
How horrible it is to be Vanderbilt football, where teams keep getting good and they just stay the same. They just flatline. So I think obviously Alabama and Georgia now have become so good that it's really difficult to kind of rise above anything. The other side of it is that, I mean, look, the people in Louisiana, I don't know if they have power yet. So they're going to be a little salty anyway. Like there's probably a lot of angst, but it does seem odd. Look, I think we all have problems with this idea that somehow the grass is going to be greener. And Ed Ogeron was a guy that not a lot of people wanted anyway. I mean, you remember he was up for the USC job and everyone in California's like, we can't understand you. I'm sorry. And so that didn't work out. In Louisiana, they're like, oh, we can understand him just fine. But so it's not like he was a sexy pick for a coach, right? It's not like you had, I'm sure someone will talk about little Urban Meyer, right? Where you want to give him a little bit more leg room. But look, who do they think that's going to be better? I think would be the question. Like, who is going to do a better job at LSU than Ed Ogeron? I guess we're about to find out. So it is ludicrous. How much is Ed Ogeron making?
He's doing well.
But this is one of those questions. Will Ed Ogeron do just as well not being the coach of LSU as he will being the coach of LSU?
Oh, he'd probably do better with the way buyouts are structured now. He'd probably make more money getting fired than he would if he remained employed.
So, that's the joy of the poison pill, right? That you're just as good not coaching, but it is strange. I think this newfound kind of contraption that will be the SEC adding Oklahoma and Texas, there's going to be a coaching churn like no other, because in the end of the day, there's only going to be one SEC champion and then one runner up. Think about the number of teams that have expectation of being a national title contender, right? I mean, just off the top, you've got Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, that's 5 teams right off the top. And then you start to add in that kind of next layer below. Auburn, I think, has expectations. LSU has expectations, right? I mean, and that's not even getting to the teams that would like to be good, whether you're talking about an Ole Miss or South Carolina or some of those other schools, right? It's going to be, they're going to have to pay their coaches a ton of money, and there's going to be an expectation that they're going to get fired halfway through. And you start to wonder if maybe coaches in the SEC might have to start being judged the way they are in the NFL, which is not, can you win a conference championship, but rather, are you in the top half or top third? Because that seems to be the litmus by which people will have to be judged.
Well, look, I think with the Ed Ogeron situation underscores is just anymore, there is no runway. You must win immediately and then continue to win all the time. Otherwise, you will be gone. Like, there is no such thing as job security in college sports anymore. There is no such thing as a buyout large enough. Like, there just isn't. Like, they're going to pay whoever they want to get rid of. And I'm not speaking about just LSU, I'm speaking about anybody. They're going to pay them whatever it takes. So coaches are just going to build more and more and more and more and more dollars into the buyout, the poison pill, as you call it. And that's how they're going to get paid. And then I wonder, because I've spoken to people in the coaching profession, and I've said, if you got paid a gross sum of money, let's say $40 million to go away, would you be sad that you got fired? Because me, I'd be doing backflips on my way out the door. That's the dream scenario. I'd be out there recruiting 2 stars and calling them 5 stars just to expedite the process.
And just get a kid out to be like, look, I was only getting looked at by junior colleges, and then this guy came calling.
There are people in the profession who say, oh, no. You would much rather stay and have success as opposed to get the big lump sum for being labeled a failure on your way out the door.
That's why you're not a major Division I head football coach.
Because that is definitely the one reason. You're right. No, that's a good point. Well said. That's the reason.
This is like if I asked you, like, oh, if you found the cure for cancer, would you gloat about it on Twitter? You'd be like, hell yes, I would. And meanwhile, the scientists.
I'm sorry. Do you think that there's people out there that have found the cure for cancer, but we just don't know about it?
No, I'm saying if you were that guy, if you were the guy that created the coronavirus vaccine, right? You would be out on social. You would have T-shirts made. You'd be like, I'm the guy, right? Yeah. And that's why you're not the guy, because you'd want the glory. You don't want to do the work. You just want the glory.
I mean, you do know more than one person came up with the coronavirus vaccine, right? It wasn't like one guy in his basement.
No, it's like Jonas Salk. It's like one guy.
Yeah, there's a guy whose name no one knows.
No, they know it because they watched this very special episode with Jay Friedman and I, where I identified Jonas Salk and Sarah Michelle Gellar as the Jewish couple I'd like to see commentate a football game like the Manning brothers. That's the two I'd like to watch the most together.
Obviously, they have to be Jewish.
Well, Jay and I were the first all-Jewish Sportish cast. And so we said, it led us to
convert any day now. You'd welcome me to the tribe.
No, actually, it's not true. Conversion to Judaism is actually, it's like getting into fraternity. It's a process. This isn't
if I wanted to join, like if it was like a country club, would you vouch for me?
Would I have to be your sponsor?
Would you stand up for me and be like, no, I think we could benefit from him?
I think I could make it up until we got to the ritual circumcision, at which point I think I'd have a real. No, I mean, so the problem is you actually have to go through, like, if you want to be like most forms of Christian, you take a bath and you're in. Like, that's how it works. All right. I mean, if I called Joel Osteen tomorrow, he'd be like, come on down to, Lakewood Church at the old Summit and you're in. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's hold up your Bible, say if I name.
The criminals are coming back around. Hold on. It's a grid city, so they probably just made the square.
Tell me when we get to a foot chase, because that's when it's going to start to get interesting.
So now, what do I need to do if I was to convert? Like, what's the process? I truly don't know.
No, it's like a year-long deal. You have to
learn. Year?
I mean, it's a big deal.
Do I get an associate's degree at the end of it?
No, it's like getting citizenship. Like, it's a big deal because we don't want fly-by-nights. Like, we are technically the chosen people. So you now have to kind of earn your way into that. I mean, you're buying your way into a different form of the afterlife. There's all sorts of theories about what happens on that hill in Jerusalem where we end. Like, so this is not for the faint of heart. It also will open up an entirely new dating population for you because, as people know, my community likes to keep it very tight knit. That's to sustain the people. That's how it works. That's how a lot of people convert because they want to get married. Okay. And
but that takes a year. Like, let's say I met someone I wanted to marry, and for whatever reason, familial or otherwise, a condition of that union would be that I convert. It would take a year.
You're gonna have to work. Like, you can't just. This is not like, and there's no sum of money. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna write you a check for $50,000 and let's make this faster. I think you got to do it.
Who's doing that to get in a religion?
I'm just saying you can't buy off the rabbi. I don't believe.
Are there religions that you can buy your way into that aren't Scientology?
No. No, anyone can be a Scientologist. It's just to get to like the John Travolta level. I think it's to get on the boat, because there's always boats. I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like there's a yacht. Sorry, you think Scientologists have a yacht? No, do you think Scientology is below deck Mediterranean? Where the headquarters of I welcome, by the way, our Scientology community that what if we were huge in the Scientology community? What if we did the metrics and where the headquarters, the world headquarters of Scientology is, right?
Isn't it like the middle of Manhattan?
No.
No, I don't know.
That's Judaism.
So where is it?
It's in Clearwater, Florida. They kind of took over downtown Clearwater, Florida. And so
also the spring training home of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yes. Coincidence? So I once, when I was in college, we go down to Florida a lot. I did this 5K like in Florida that was actually run by the Scientology community. And And so, and I didn't really know that. It was just like, say no to drugs, 5K, and probably also say yes to some other stuff. But it was and so I won this 5K. It's a pretty good race. And they were like, oh, there was some kind of big prize or something like that. They're like, but we have it over in this compound. So my dad and I drove over. They're like, well, you have to drive over to the race. And I remember getting into this compound and my dad being like, we're going to get the hell out of here. like, I don't know exactly what's happening now, but I may have been identified as someone that had some natural speed or some ability. So I was like, we're getting the hell out of here.
Is being fleet of foot, is that something they're looking for in Scientology?
Well, everyone. I mean, when you're putting together a team, you're amassing talent, right? And so you're amassing talent. Everyone brings a skill. It's like the Super Friends. I mean, Aquaman is good at. We didn't get him because he could fly. We get him because he could swim. So you get a team. That's why the Super Friends work, because each brings their talent with them. So maybe let's put a kind of a bow on the Ed Ogeron thing. Maybe we need to think about what he doesn't have. Maybe the answer is coaching communities as opposed to single head coaches. Maybe that's the problem.
So you're saying that maybe like a head coach should have some people with specialized knowledge in different parts of the game, assisting them to help coordinate different parts of a football game.
Yep. And they should only be focused on one area.
Huh.
Like, let's say one half of the game.
That's interesting. What if now hear me out here. What if you broke those specialized groups down by position?
Yep. It's an idea. I don't know if it's been done before. It's expensive. I think it's a great idea.
You know who I think's got the smarts to implement such a plan? Vanderbilt.
It's not working.
Important question, Keith Strudler. How do you make, because you are an SEC football guy, how do you make Vanderbilt win a football game?
You drop to the whack. That's how you make Vanderbilt win a football game. You can't. I've spent a fair amount of time at Vanderbilt. I dated someone who went to Vanderbilt.
Okay. Was she good at football?
Was she good at football? I don't believe so.
Yeah. Okay. Because at Vanderbilt, they have had a woman who was pretty good at football. So maybe.
No, I don't think she was. I mean, this was many years ago. I mean, I was just out of college. She was still in college. True story. We were going to go to a football game when I was up there once. She was a senior. I was, newly out of college. And it was the Vanderbilt, Alabama game.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a Vanderbilt, Alabama game. I told the story to Willie Geist, by the way. He liked it. And so also a Vanderbilt alum. So I was up there and we were going to go to this Alabama game. I was very excited. I'd never been to an SEC football game, right? I mean, obviously I was Cornell undergrad. I thought football games were people went to drink beer and throw empty beer cans at the mascot. Like I thought that's what football games were. And so I was like, this is going to be great. We're going to see a real football game. And Vanderbilt was on one of these things where they thought they were good. So they had this expression, sugar doors, like, instead of the Commodores, sugar doors. Right? Sugar
I put that together. Thank you. Yes.
That's for the audience. And so we were going to go and I was ready to go, we get there early, do a little pregame. And I was wearing, probably not something that dissimilar to what I'm wearing right now. I'm sure I was wearing Chuck Taylors and whatever. And my girlfriend at the time said, what are you wearing? And I was like, I'm wearing this. Like, and the shirt was probably ripped. I mean, I was younger. I really was pretty slovenly. Right. And so
you've made tremendous progress. We're all very proud of you.
So she's like, you can't go like that. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you have to wear like khakis and a dress shirt at a Vanderbilt game. That's what they wear. And I was like, well, that's stupid because I'm probably going to vomit on myself. So why would I do that to a nice shirt? Because this drink or drown ain't going to stay in this situation right here. So she's like, you can't. And I was like, well, I will not dress up. We literally argued about it and then didn't go to the football game. So we sat in a dorm room. You wonder why this didn't go the distance.
So here's an important question. Do you believe you won that argument?
Did I put on a dress shirt?
I don't think you did. So I think you won. Did you win that argument?
I did. I stood my ground.
Congratulations.
But they didn't. And to this day, I've never been to a Vanderbilt football game. So So is it weird that people would dress up like that for a foot? Like this was the tradition.
Everything in college football tradition is weird if you think about it.
Not everything, but that's weird that you
pretty much everything's pretty weird if you think about it.
I don't think it's all weird. So it clearly still bothers me because I should have been able to go to that football game. It still bothers me. I had a great trip anyway, but it still bothers me.
Speaking of people who might not be attending too many football games.
We should get her on the show. We should get her on the show.
We should. In fact, I actually think every week we should get someone else that you dated and wronged in the past. It'd be nice to have an ally.
Obviously, we start with Andra. We start with my current wife. Or do we build up to that?
I actually think she should be on every one, just reminiscing also and swapping war stories. Be like, oh, honey, you have no idea.
You make such a bad decision.
Urban Meyer had a bad weekend.
Yeah. Speaking of bad dating decisions.
He had a bad weekend.
Yeah.
Was his weekend, though, so bad that he deserves this level of fallout? Because it feels a little sanctimonious. And it also feels like if Urban Meyer was 4-0 and had this kind of weekend, everybody would be like, hey, Urban, you earned that. Glad you had a good time out there in Columbus. Now let's get on and let's get the 5-0 this week. It seems like people are piling on poor Urban Meyer.
Do you know who probably wouldn't have had that opinion? His
Shelly
wife.
Meyer?
I think she's less concerned about the wins and losses.
And again, that's fine because you know what Shelly Meyer isn't? A pundit who goes on television or the owner of the Jaguars who releases a statement that says that like trust has to be earned back. Like Shad, he didn't do anything to you, Shad. All right, he took some pictures, he apologized. Let's ease up on the Twitter graphics.
I've seen, by the way, and we will not get, there are multiple angles of this video.
Yes, they're not good. They're not good. He shouldn't have done it. He was right to apologize for it. But that's probably enough. Why isn't that enough?
So there's a couple of things. I mean, I hear what you're saying. First of all, why would you do that? Like if you are,
I have an answer to that question.
What? What's your
tequila? That's why.
When you said that, by the way, when anyone says tequila, you know what I want to do.
Yeah, but you wonder why would someone do that? That's why.
Yeah, but why? All right, he is. Let's be clear, a very visible figure. I don't.
As evidenced by the fact that before these pictures were taken, he was in a place called Urban Meyer's Poorhouse.
The irony.
So, yes,
the irony.
I agree with you. He's
Should
a very
it not have
famous
been?
Person.
Can they please rename that Urban Meyer's Doghouse? I feel like that has to happen.
So I get what you're saying.
I don't want to jinx
person.
This. Don't want to jinx this. Almost 28 minutes in, 2 functioning lights and a working microphone.
They can hear you.
So look, he knows. Look, if he is going to act in such a way, there's 2 places he shouldn't act in such a way. One is Jacksonville, Florida. The other is in Columbus, Ohio, at a bar that has his namesake on it. So in some ways, look, I'm not going to get sanctimonious about the openness of his marriage. That how this is a press release or what he'd like to be for him to say is him to come on there and be like, look, folks, I guess you guys don't know this. We got a completely open marriage.
The Will and Jada, sure.
If you think that's bad, you should have seen what my wife was doing. That you think that was bad? You should have seen when the mailman came over like that. Is that too much? But I mean, so he should know better. Like this isn't so much about whether or not, like, I don't want to get into the moralizing about, hey, you're married. I mean, I happen to think that wasn't a great thing to do, but I like he's the first person that, has run afoul of his relationship. That is, you're right. if you're going to fire everyone in every position who's done that, we're going to have a problem, like, because no one's going to be working, right? And so, and that, by the way, runs across gender. So the issue is it shows a true lack of judgment, right? The idea that he would go out and put himself in a position where that's likely to happen, to me, it is a little bit. When you're hired to be a head football coach of the Jaguars, you are essentially the public face of a god-awful football team, of a team that should debate whether or not they want to join the SEC as the second team from the state of Florida, right? I mean, you're in that kind of position, right? Where the Gators are like, boy, Georgia's tough. Maybe we should put Jacksonville on the schedule. Like, maybe because they play in Jacksonville, maybe they could just bring the Jags in instead. So they're a terrible football team, and it's a horribly run football team. They brought you in to be the savior of this franchise and a quarterback who's probably never going to play well because of this experience. You could see this being one of those things where the experience he has with the Jaguars ends his career. Like, that could happen. So I actually don't have a huge problem with him taking the critiques that he's taking, not because, I worry a lot about his relationships. It's a little creepy and icky. Like, that whole video was
it's
a little
much.
Not
a good look. It's
not
a good look. He's right to apologize for that.
And also when he's like the story, and when he's like, well, my wife went home to take care of our grandkids, and then I went here to hook up with this 19-year-old. Like, everything about it sounds horrible.
Of course, but that's probably not what happened. What happened is he probably went next door because he got invited. He was going to stay for one, and then he had a drink, and then the next thing led to another. Like, I highly doubt it was as calculated as. No,
I don't think it was calculated.
I'm going to send my wife home, and I'm going to go have a grand old time next door.
Of course
I think
not.
we've all been a part of nights that have gotten away from us. And that's why, I think he's 100% right to apologize. I think he will have certainly some repair work to do with his family. But come on, the owner of the team piling on, like, yeah, but come on.
It's because he lost. Now, look, first of all, has anyone now doubted why Tim Tebow needed to make that roster? If Tim Tebow were on that roster, I can tell you where Urban Meyer would not have been. And that's in Urban Meyer's doghouse, having a few too many dirty martinis, right?
Yeah, sure. You'd be drinking, wine and wafers out of the tabernacle, of course.
How disturbing would it be if we saw Tim Tebow, if it weren't Urban Meyer and it were Tim Tebow?
That's like, that's a false idol at that point.
Yeah, because I don't think no offense to anyone, I don't know Urban Meyer. I don't think anyone was like, Urban Meyer, how could you? The guy who recruited Aaron Hernandez, we never expected this.
Here's how you know that the Jaguars have bigger problems than this. And I think this scenario is just bubbling them to the top.
They're 0-4.
The idea, well, not only 0-4, they're 0-20 going back to last year. The only way that you lose the locker room over something like this is if you've already lost the locker room. Yeah. So it was gone well before this incident. And now this incident gives reporters cover and reason to ask about whether or not you respect your coach. And they gave a truthful answer, all these players that say, we're laughing at him.
Yeah, because I mean, look, this is, again, I am not disparaging NFL football players, but these are young, attractive men who travel the country, who probably have a lot of romantic opportunities. I can't imagine they looked at this picture and be like, oh, how dare, none of us have ever done like that. Like, all of these guys were like the biggest star on their college football team and could walk into any bar in their college town and be surrounded by people. Like, the idea that they'd look at Urban Meyer in a dive bar in Columbus and be like, the shame. How could that happen? I would suggest that long before that happened, they probably were like, we hate this guy. It ain't working. And whether that's fair or not, that's, I don't know. But it seems odd. Does it seem odd to you that Urban Meyer, who has had such success at the college level, obviously, seems to have failed so miserably in his attempt, like everything that he's tried to do publicly, how he's going to change the system. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have the quarterback try out for his own position against some scrub, like all these weird, I'm surprised that he's misread the room so much that he, and maybe that's, look, I mean, a lot of very successful college coaches have not figured out the NFL. Steve Spurrier didn't, but I think a little of that was situation. I think Steve Spurrier could have. Pete Carroll did, but I'm surprised that it's been this bad. You have a theory about this.
What? I'm not surprised it's been this bad.
Why?
Because the chasm between NFL coaching and college coaching is a mile wide. Like, it may seem like the step from Ohio State to the Jacksonville Jaguars is natural. It's not. I mean, it's totally different. Like, in college, you are constantly focused on correcting and teaching and, sort of instilling discipline in the group. The NFL is nothing like that. Discipline is instilled by the paycheck, right? If you need to discipline someone, you take away their money, their livelihood, which is why everyone is there, right? In college, at least prior to the NIL, no one was there to support their families, at least not directly. In the NFL, that is the sole reason anyone is there. Even before you get down to winning, whatever, the number one reason you're doing that is to make money for your families, right? So when you come in with this college mindset, right, and you start dealing with professional athletes as though they are amateurs, they're naturally going to resent that, because it's sort of like you have kids, when they outgrow something, right? If you treat them as if they were at a previous phase in their life, how does that go over?
Well, I'll tell you what, here's been the response now, because there's been a lot of discipline over the past, let's say, about 12 days in our house. Like, I'll tell you what happens when you get into high school. You start to think that you got more rights and privileges than you actually do have, right?
Of course, sure.
So I've thrown out, and that's fine. You got to push against your boundaries. And I'm like, well, we're going to take this away. And the response has been, well, that's not going to do anything. It's not going to make me change. And I was like, oh, but the fact that you said that proves otherwise. Because it wasn't, I don't care. It was, I agree with you. Now, look, but the NBA, Brad Stevens did it, but Brad Stevens wasn't a tough love kind of coach. I think it's coach by coach. I really do think.
No doubt. There are certainly people that can adjust their philosophy in their, but that's hard. Not everybody is like that. That's an extremely rare thing. And the idea that you can just point at a guy like Pete Carroll or Brad Stevens, who have both, as you mentioned, done it successfully, and be like, well, why isn't everybody like that? Because frankly, not everybody is like that.
Yes. I think, and they happen to have been, my guess is they were coaching more of that in a way that was appropriate. Like, I don't think everyone looked at Brad Stevens and be like, well, he's the guy that gets his team in the locker room after the game and tells them what horrible people and makes them run stadiums the next morning. That's more of an Urban Meyer thing, right? It seemed like he treated his players more like adults anyway. And of course, Pete Carroll at USC, since they were all on the payroll anyway, it probably didn't matter. So, yeah. So the question is, what happens? Like, what happens now? Like, what happens now? Like, this feels like that point, and I don't think it's going to happen, but does it not feel like the point where more video starts to emerge? Like, this feels like that moment in time where all of a sudden we find Pete Carroll Urban Meyer had a sex tape or something like that.
I don't know that it has to, right? Because there's two schools of thoughts that have sort of emerged. One is, this is now useful cover if the Jaguars need to remove Urban Meyer because it turns out they've made a mistake. The second school of thought is Urban Meyer self-sabotages himself.
That's your theory.
All the time.
That's your theory.
And so it's very possible that Urban Meyer, why did Urban Meyer go next door? Because Urban Meyer wants to go to USC. And this is the way that he's always gotten out whenever he's needed to get out. So maybe he's just running. We talk about how people don't change and not everybody's like that. Maybe he's just running his old plays back.
Having a good time in the process, huh?
It's what he did when he left Florida. It's what he did when he left Ohio State.
What if we find out this is like a Netflix show? We find out she was in on the ruse.
She's like a USC booster.
Yes, and the video guy is like his video coordinator at USC.
They have a film school.
I mean, how many guys get multiple camera angles, right?
Can I get some key lighting on the finger?
I don't think we got that. We're going to have to roll it again. That guy over there was throwing a shadow. I told you to hold the thing up. The silver, hold it this direction. Run it again. I need the same song. Same song. We were playing Tina Turner before. Come on.
You know what's going on alongside the Urban Meyer saga is that the Major League Baseball playoffs have begun.
Yeah.
And normally, Keith, I am against playoff expansion. I think getting into the playoffs should be difficult, and I think it should be limited. However, I really like the one-and-done wild card entry into the Major League Baseball playoffs because just about the only time that baseball is truly palatable to sit down and watch for 4 consecutive hours is if it's a win-or-go-home, do-or-die game. The sport is never better than when one game means everything. Because in small sample size baseball, truly anything can happen.
Sure. Oh, yeah. You can. Is this the part where, because I won't reveal exactly when we're recording this, when we be like, and so it was so great that the Red Sox won the game.
Yes, I'll reveal when we're recording it. It's Tuesday night during the Yankees-Red Sox game. So we don't know who's going to win.
No. Well, they know it's night because of where your stupid studio. They know it's night, and they're going to read the crime blotter and be like, well, there was a double homicide.
Do people think that our show, which has aired at 12 different times over the last 12 weeks, is done live? That we're just sitting around in our house waiting for them to tell us to go, and it could happen anytime between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m.
Go time? Now? Go. Jeff, get on the phone. They need us now.
The pickleball match has ended.
What if we... It was a straight flush. Poker's over. We're ready.
How many robot commercials until we're on?
What? Pickleball's only one set because they're all old? Okay, we're ready.
Do you need us to do both? Okay, 48 minutes it is.
No, just insert the commercials anywhere. We don't care. We're just going to keep talking.
The Olive Garden wants to come on as a sponsor.
That was the biggest payoff for anyone who's followed this. That was a montage of payoff. You're welcome, America. I feel like we should start like throwing the old radio show stuff, like a couple of throwbacks for those fans. Hot dogs, salsa. Remember Rob Duffy with the commercial?
Rob Duffy weighs how much?
No. Can't do that.
What do you mean you don't know what kind of cheese goes on pizza? True story on a radio show, one of our interns who worked in a pizzeria did not know the type of cheese that most often went on pizza.
And so we faked a call and we said, John, hey, this is Frank. I'm calling for a pizza, but could you tell me what kind of cheese? And then we asked him what he would do. He'd be like, hold on, let me go check. What kind of pizza do we have? It's a valid question. Continue.
I'm done. I just wanted to say that I like the one and done baseball games.
That's it?
Yeah, I like them.
Well, I mean, sure. Now, as you mentioned, in college, was this our last show topic? Just so I know if I can continue to.
It could be, unless you want to talk about the heavyweight fight that no one cares about this weekend.
No, I'm not interested in that.
No one else is either.
No, boxing is silly. Is it boxing or MMA?
It's boxing. It's Deontay Wilder, who we met, or at least saw when we went to the Iron Bowl.
Did we?
Tyson Fury. Yeah, he was there.
Huh.
You don't remember the guy? You don't remember the 6'6" guy who looked like he'd rip your head off?
No, they all blend in.
He was there. We met him. We met the disgraced governor of Louisiana.
Yes.
We met Vern Lundquist. We met Joe.
No,
Namath.
of Alabama, not Louisiana, of Alabama.
Alabama. Excuse me, Alabama.
Speaking of guys that make bad mistakes, that was Mark Sanford. He fell in love though. He was like the guy from Election.
No, it wasn't Mark. Mark Sanford was North Carolina.
No, Mark Sanford was Alabama.
I don't think that was the governor. I feel like it had an L in it.
No, look it up.
And I'm going to look it up. Hold on.
Look it up. But here's what I'll say about baseball. You're absolutely right that anyone can, like, Florida State could be a major league team on the right day. Like, it's these weird things. Like, you remember during spring training, they'd sometimes have college teams play pro teams. This would be the kind of thing, if you did this in football or most sports, it would be a bloodbath. Yeah. So
as expected, I was right. Mark Sanford is the governor of South Carolina. So I guess I wasn't right, but I was more right than you. The disgraced governor of Alabama.
Wait. Mark Sanford got in trouble too, though, didn't he?
Yes. Apparently he did have a fall, according to this one Google headline.
But he had an affair.
The disgraced governor of Alabama, who we met, Robert Bentley.
Okay, but he had an affair, but Mark Sanford fell in love with someone else, correct? They all. I'll tell you what, it's the sweet Southern air is what happens.
Let's see. He had an extramarital. Wow. How about this? Mark Sanford has his own Wikipedia page. So does Mark Sanford's extramarital affair.
It's got its own page.
It's got its own page.
How often is Mark Sanford at home going on trying to edit that Wikipedia page?
Listen to this, Keith. From June 18th to June 24th, the governor, while he was governor,
He disappeared.
Yes, to go to Buenos Aires to have an affair.
Yes, he went AWOL, and everyone's like, "Where's the governor? We can't get anything done here now." And he was just there with his love interest.
Yeah, I understand in Argentina.
This is what happens. People, I understand it. You go in like these SEC schools, you put on your nice shirt, you go to a football game, and you fall in love. That happens. So yes, we met the governor. We met Joe Namath. Yep. We met Jim Nance. We met all the big shots.
We met Vern Lundquist. We met Vern Lundquist.
Oddly enough, they look nothing alike.
No.
That would be
Avery Bradley was there. We saw Avery Bradley. Yeah.
How awkward would that be if you saw Vern Lundquist and you called him Jim Nance, or the opposite? You're like,
well, considering I met Vern Lundquist while we were sharing, we were shoulder to shoulder at a urinal, quite awkward.
That's it. Oh, we've been over this. I know we're almost out of time. I talk in that situation.
No, I did what normal people do, waited until we had both washed our hands and then said, have a good call, Vern. And he said, thank you.
I break the silence almost immediately when you're urinal. Yeah. Why not? Why?
Because that's not what men do. When your zipper's down, your mouth is closed. What's that? We're out of time. We got to go. All right. He's Keith. I'm Jeff. Thanks for hanging with us on Sportish. FTFnext.com, YouTube, audio archives available wherever you get your podcasts. You can go and relive this episode, right? And really, you can go relive all the episodes so you get the Easter eggs that were in this episode so that you can really enjoy it. And then you'll even more enjoy next week's episode. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.